What's going on, guys? I'm Jake the Lawn Kid. Welcome back to another weekday in the lawn. 2 years ago on this channel, I did a video walking you through step by step on how to properly water your lawn. Well, what we're going to do today to complement that video is we're going to dive further in depth on how to properly calibrate your sprinklers, so then that way you can get the most out of your watering. So with all that being said, let's get into the video, bruh. Okay, so before we get into the bread and butter, we need to go ahead and define two terms that we're going to be mentioning throughout this video. The first one is going to be our good old friend GPM, gallons per minute, also known as the flow rate. And the reason this is important is because we're going to be using this today to calculate how many gallons of water will come out of our spigot in 1 minute. The second term we need to know is going to be friction loss, and that is pressure loss due to fluid friction with the surface of the hose. We're going to be talking a lot about that later in the video. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a good old bucket test. We're gonna figure out how many gallons our spigot can output in 1 minute. And in conjunction with that, to dive a little deeper into this friction loss term that I'm gonna talk about, we're gonna go ahead and not only perform one bucket test, but we're gonna do three. We're gonna do one with just the spigot and two with hoses. We're gonna have a hose that's 5/8 diameter and another that's 3/4. Okay, so with this bucket test, I've come to conclude that Megan's spigot alone puts out 5 gallons in 45 seconds. From here, all we gotta do is take 60, because 60 seconds are in a minute, and divide that by how many seconds it took to fill up 1 gallon of this bucket. In our case, 9 seconds, 45 divided by 5, because it's a 5-gallon bucket. That means it took 9 seconds to fill up 1 gallon. So 60 seconds divided by 9 seconds to fill up 1 gallon gives us a grand total of 6.6 gallons per minute for the spigot alone. Now let's go ahead and do the hose. We're going to do the 5/8 hose, and it's about 100 foot long. And what I want to do here is I want to test the theory of friction loss. As you guys remember who've been watching the video earlier, basically what friction loss is the water, as it travels through the hose, it's making friction with the surface. That can actually negatively affect the pressure before it reaches its end point, which is going to be the sprinkler. Now, what I mean by that is that when the water is rubbing up with the friction of the hose because of the small diameter and extra length, that can actually decrease your pressure before the water reaches the sprinkler. So that's something to keep in mind. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to it. We're going to bucket test off of this 100-foot 5/8 hose, and we're going to compare that to a 75-foot 3/4 inch hose. Now, I know it's not a fair comparison, but I want to prove a point to you guys that hose diameter is everything when it comes to water pressure, especially with watering the lawn, because again, the idea here when we water is we want to be as efficient as possible, and the way to do that is to make sure that we maintain the highest pressure possible. All right, let's get to it. So we're gonna kick that on. I got the stopwatch behind me. Let's go. time. All right, so as you guys saw on the spigot, it took us 45 seconds to fill up this 5-gallon bucket. But after using this 100-foot 5/8 hose, you could see it actually took 9 seconds longer. Now, that just goes back to what I was talking about earlier about the friction loss. The water making contact with the surface of the hose can result in a loss in pressure before it reaches the end point. And that point proves itself true in this test right here. So with all that being said, now let's go ahead and do it with the 3/4 inch hose. Oh yeah. Three, two, one. Whoa. Look at how quick that's filling up. 46 seconds. Look at that. That's about an 8-second difference compared to the 5/8 over there. So you can see, compared to our first test with just the spigot, we have a 1-second increase. So a little bit of friction loss going on in there, but not much. So no big deal really. But again, the idea being is that if you feel that you're having problems with your water pressure as far as watering the grass, then try increasing the diameter of your hose as it will reduce that friction loss and maintain that high pressure all the way to the end point. Okay, now before we go any further, let me go ahead and introduce the sprinklers we will be using. The sprinklers we will be using today are from a company called Big Sprinkler. We will be utilizing their heavy-duty sled base line. These are commercial quality sprinklers in a residential size package. They provide a durable sled with either green powder coat or galvanized finish to form a non-corrosive scratch and rust resistant barrier between the steel and the wet environment in which it will be operating. These sled-based sprinklers are designed to work with flow rates and pressures typically found at your home's garden hose spigot and can be connected to a standard 3/4 inch garden hose. They also provide a selection of 3 different sprinkler heads such as the Impact, the Rotor, and the XL Wobbler. Get 10% off your purchase of all 3 models using my coupon codes listed right here. For more details, please click the first link in the description below. At least the wind's died down a bit. Wow. Oh, it's hitting me. Night and day difference with the different diameter hoses. The water's literally coming right at me now in bigger chunks. Okay, now one more thing I want to talk about, and that is, what does a good stream look like? Now this is a very big debate when it comes to calibrating your sprinkler for the first time, so we're going to go ahead and go through it today. All the knowledge I'm going to be dropping here is only going to be applicable for 2 out of the 3 units, specifically the impact and the rotor sled. The wobbler, don't worry about that, just turn it on, you'll be fine. But with the impact and the rotor, it's important that you get this right so you can cover a lot of ground very efficiently. With the impact and the rotor, you'll notice that both of them out of the box, when you turn them on for the first time, they put out what I like to call an arch and jet stream, which basically means that the water comes straight in and straight out of the sprinkler with no mist interference. Now, while you're doing that, you're getting very sufficient coverage at the beginning and end of the stream, whereas you're getting little to no coverage in the middle. Now, the way to fix that with the impact sprinkler is to tighten the nut that comes with it. You'll notice that when you look at the impact sprinkler, they all come with this little nut right in front of the stream, and what happens is when you slowly tighten that nut, it'll slowly start to interrupt the stream, thus creating more of a mist pattern, which will improve the consistency of your stream and increase the efficiency of your coverage. With the rotor, it's very similar, but a little more advanced for some of you guys, and the reason that is because you actually have to use a provided screwdriver that comes with the unit. Take the screwdriver and go to the top of the sprinkler head, and what you'll notice is you have 2 screw slots located at the top of the head. You have 2 screws to think about, the back screw and the front screw. The back screw, which is behind the nozzle, is meant to adjust the span width. The more you tighten it, the more you increase the span, the more you loosen it, the more you decrease the span. And the front screw, which is the one we're concerned about right now, this one is located over top of the nozzle in the front of the head, and this adjusts the stream. Put the screwdriver in there and tighten that screw down to disrupt that stream and make your coverage more consistent. One more thing I want to talk about in regards to these 2 sprinklers, and that is fine-tuning your sprinkler. One thing I really like about big sprinklers that you can't really get with a lot of other sprinklers out there is that you have the ability to fine-tune your sprinkler to best fit your situation, whereas most sprinklers that you find at a big box store, you're pretty much stuck with what you get and you just got to live with it. What I mean by that is both the impact and the rotor sled come with different nozzle sizes with each unit. The impact provides 3 different nozzle sizes, 4 to 6 millimeter, and the rotor provides 8 different nozzle sizes, the smallest being 1.5 and the biggest being an 8. The biggest question I'm going to get from here is going to be, okay Jake, well now that I know this, what nozzle do I use? And my answer to you would have to be, well, that depends. There's so many variables that go into it, right? Your home water pressure, your hose length and diameter, there's so much that goes into it. This is where you yourself need to take the time and fine-tune your sprinklers and figure out what's best for your situation. A good example of this would be my situation. As you guys know, I mentioned earlier, my neighbor's spigot with this 3/4 inch hose puts out about 6.5 gallons per minute, and my hose is 75 feet long with a 3/4 inch diameter. And what I've come to find is that with the impact, the bigger the nozzle, the better, right? Because the more water you can put out at once, the more area you're going to be able to cover in less time. Now with the rotor, it's a little different. In fact, bigger is not better sometimes with the rotor, because what I've come to find is with the biggest nozzle on there, while I get good coverage, I lose a lot of distance and I lose a little bit of that mist that improves the consistency of the stream. There we go. Okay, so now it's pretty much easy to put it back, to put the tip back in or change it out. Just take the new one or the same one and just push it right back in. That's all you got to do. And then one thing I want to do ahead of time, just to help the stream a little bit, is I'm going to go ahead and tighten this screw down. So you guys remember the nut on the impact sprinkler, that's basically what this is, but for this version of a sprinkler, you have a screw and a screwdriver. And what you got to do is you got to tighten down the screws to adjust the settings. So the one I'm messing with now, which by the way, let me see if I can hold that. The one I'm messing with right now, that is the mister screw. So the lower I put it into the stream, the more it's going to disrupt and turn the stream into more of a mist-like pattern, which is what we want for consistent coverage. And then as far as how to adjust the sprinkler, you just have to turn the screwdriver one way or the other. When you turn it clockwise, that increases the span. When you turn it counterclockwise, that decreases the span. It's pretty much that simple. And what I've come to find is that the best nozzle for my situation, again, it's going to be different for you guys, but the best nozzle for my situation is going to be a 4 or a 5, as it still puts out more gallons per minute, provides a nice mist to improve stream consistency, and it also allows me to maintain that extra distance that I strive for. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will show you how to get the deepest, darkest, greenest, thickest lawn on the block. I'm Jake the Lawn Kid. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. If I don't see you guys next time, you're gonna be dominated, bro. See you later. That's pretty good.